Hello, welcome to CoinBlock. I'm your host, Charles. Today we're going to do a quick market recap, then we're going to look at China. I know you guys are sick and tired of China, but I think it's important to ask what happens next. And then we're going to look at Japan and Russia and Bitcoin mining there, followed by India and the digitization of the Indian rupee. So to begin, we have a market cap of $120 billion. Bitcoin is trading a little over $3,500. Ethereum is $242. Bitcoin Cash, a little over $400. Now this is interesting. If you have a look here, all the graphs, they're all mirroring one another. They're all exactly the same. Very, very interesting. There's obviously a few outliers there where the graphs differ. Like you can see here, edgeless. It's rallying all the way up to the top, which is unusual. But generally speaking, all the graphs are the same. So we've got Ripple, 17 cents. Litecoin, $47. Dash. Now I expect Dash to actually go up in value because there's a Dash conference next week in London, I believe. So as you can see here, I think this is going to rally all the way up to the top, trading at $295. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes up to $350. NEM, 19 cents. Monero, $92. So Monero is, even though it's dropped, it's still doing strong compared to what it was doing a few weeks ago. And finally, we have IOTA. Now, IOTA really hasn't recovered. It kind of went up, rallied to the top, fell all the way down, and then it's just very low, very steady. But it's not really doing much. And of course, NEO. Now, NEO went all the way down to $13.50, and it's come up just a little over 19. So I'm sure this will go up again in the future, but the Chinese Ethereum, so to speak, isn't doing too well at the moment. So now if we have a look here, China, what happens next? So obviously with all the FUD and uncertainty going on in China, it's actually a good thing because we know now that China can't really do much else. There's not much more China can say to scare us. The Chinese government, when they say they're going to ban something, it's usually not, it's a ban, it's more of a moratorium. It's a temporary cessation to activities. So they ban something and then they reinstate it with regulations at a future date. This is how the Chinese government works. It's not like the UK or the United States, where when we ban something, we ban it outright and that's the end of it. In China, they ban something and then they bring it back to life at a later date. This is generally, historically speaking, this is what the Chinese government does. And of course, as it says here, you have the Chinese Congress, which gathers every 5 years. This is happening in October. So they're shutting down things, getting ready for that. The main directive of the Chinese Congress is to really develop the future 5-year plan of China, both internally and its foreign policy. And this will probably follow a reshuffle in the Chinese government and its party leaders. Only then will we see further developments in the crypto economy, and its attendant regulation might become clearer later after that. So really, I had a look at the markets and I had a look at the trading volumes for the Chinese yuan and put them in dollars for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum Classic. Now we can see here that Bitcoin and Ethereum, you know, as a percentage of Chinese yuan held on the Chinese exchanges, is only taking up a global total of 12 and 14%. So, you know, for those to be thrown back into the cryptocurrency economy is going to have a very small impact on the price. If anything, it actually probably won't have any impact on daily trading for the prices of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Certainly in the medium term, it's not going to have any impact. Now, as for Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum Classic, we can see the story is very different here because the total volume held in Chinese yuan on Chinese exchanges like Huobi and the other one, what's it called? OK Bitcoin, I think. They're actually holding quite a large reserves of 36% for Litecoin, 35% for Bitcoin Cash, and a little over 57% for Ethereum Classic. So Ethereum Classic, guys, that's really gonna tank in price. in the next few weeks when the two final Chinese exchanges have to close. And then you've got Bitcoin Cash. That's obviously going to lose massive amounts of its value. It's just trading over $400. And Litecoin as well. That's over a third, guys, of its price. So that's going to be gone. So that's what I think is going to happen. Of course, I'm not a financial expert or a financial advisor. This is just my own kind of analysis. But Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic look quite safe. So what does this mean for Chinese traders? We're going to see a cessation to Chinese traders in the Chinese market, casual Chinese traders. But for the hardcore Chinese investors, they're going to continue trading. They're just going to move their assets overseas and do it that way. Now, you could argue that China is going to ban Bitcoin mining operations, but I don't think that's going to happen because China's at the forefront of Bitcoin mining. And so really that brings me on to my next point, which is Russia and Japan. So I see Japan and Russia really as taking up the mantle. They're really going to be taking Bitcoin mining forward. They're going to try and take that away from China. Russia obviously has the ideal climate for that. Japan as well, I mean, they have the wherewithal. They have the finances to really make Bitcoin mining happen. And so if we have a look here, you can actually see, you know, that Russia's already recognized the potential of cryptocurrency technologies. You know, the development of new blockchain technologies is really a key issue, says Igor Bulunstev, Senior Vice President of Sberbank in Russia. So we can see that Russia really is eyeing the cryptocurrency economy. And I think that's a good thing because in world affairs, Russia's always been tarnished and labeled as kind of the underdog. And I think really this is the time for them to really pull the rug under, you know, China and America's feet. They can really do something here if they capitalize on cryptocurrency. Sergei Gurkov, chairman of the Bank for Development and Economic Affairs, believes that cryptocurrency and mining as a trend is going to play a positive role for Russia in general and for the world community in particular. So I think I do agree with that. And obviously Japan, similarly, you have the GMO Internet Group based in Tokyo. This was news that came out earlier this week. They actually want to do the Bitcoin mining for the Japanese and for the world. They actually want to outsource it to Europe, have their mining plants in Europe. And in the process of developing new Bitcoin mining chips. So it says here that GMO Internet Group based in Tokyo normally does incredibly boring things like registering domain names and hosting web services, but it has caught the Bitcoin fever as well. GMO announced today that it plans to spend more than $3 billion to start mining Bitcoin in the first half of next year, with some $10 million being available for Bitcoin miners to accumulate. Okay. GMO plans to develop its own mining chips, claiming that they will operate at an unprecedented degree of efficiency. If GMO successfully introduces the chips, it will trigger an arms race within the Bitcoin mining industry. Again, I completely agree with this, and I think this can only be a good thing. And this moves us on to India. I think India, just like Russia and Japan, could actually really play a winning card here. You know, they're looking to digitize their rupee. And this also goes back to other tokens. You have like Amize Go, who are trying to offer microfinance and, you know, help with the transaction of exchanges for the unbanked in Southeast Asia. And I think India could really do the same thing. You have upcoming ICOs like OneChain, which want to help the unbanked and provide microloans to the community. And I think this is something that India could certainly do. So the Indian bank is saying that it wants to establish a task force that will assess the possible granting of legal tender status to Bitcoin and other virtual currencies. The central bank is also eyeing a draft for cryptocurrency regulation in the near future. The Indian central bank is also considering digitizing the rupee with an outright dislike for Bitcoin. So there's kind of mixed messages here. it's saying on the one hand that it recognizes the future potential of Bitcoin, but it still wants to have control over it. Now, obviously, Bitcoin being decentralized is outside of the control of nation-state governments. However, they could, in theory, digitize their rupee. So I think what you're going to see in the future is, you know, the digitization of the pound coin, of the US dollar, and you're going to see microloans and microfinance going out to communities in countries where really the banking system is just inept and corrupt. So I think in India, this is going to work very, very well. So let me know your thoughts and views, guys. Do you currently, you know, invest in Bitcoin? Let me know down below in the comments. I'd really like to know. All the best.